After showing us where to find some fantastic beasts and exposing the crimes of Grindelwald, J.K. Rowling's about to reveal the secrets of Dumbledore. Or at least, more secrets than she's already revealed. But if you've been too busy chasing nifflers or seducing erumpets to study the extensive family histories uncovered in the first 2 installments, don't worry, we got you covered. Here's everything you need to know before you watch Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. The first installment in the Fantastic Beasts franchise begins with the mysterious back of a mysterious head, followed by a montage of newspaper headlines about a dark wizard terrorist named Gellert Grindelwald, whom you might remember from the back of Dumbledore's chocolate frog card in the first Harry Potter film. Or, the whole backstory about him and Dumbledore being lovers who had a big fight about taking over the world. A fight that inadvertently killed Dumbledore's sister and led to Grindelwald being a fugitive of the law. Anyway, we'll come back to him later. First, we have to meet Magizoologist and perpetual eye contact avoider Newt Scamander. Newt lands in New York with a suitcase full of dreams and a bunch of magical creatures that he's collected during his travels across the world. While he's meandering about the Big Apple, Newt comes across a street preacher named Mary Lou Barebone, who leads a group of witch haters called the Second Salemers, cause they, want to do a second Salem. Guess you don't get anywhere being subtle. While watching the speech, Newt realizes that his niffler is out. No, that's not a euphemism. He chases the fuzzy little gold digger into a bank where amateur baker Jacob Kowalski is trying to get a loan to open a bakery. Jacob is a no-mage, which is what Americans call muggles, along with can't spells apparently, which sounds more like a derogatory term for dyslexics. Newt uses magic to get his niffler back, which catches the attention of Tina Goldstein, an Auror for the Magical Congress of the United States, or MACUSA. Tina, the magic cop, tries to narc on Newt straight to the president of MACUSA, Serafina Pickery, but Madame President is too busy discussing the latest in a series of attacks on the city and whether it has anything to do with the dark wizard Grindelwald. Convinced that it's not the work of Grindelwald, but rather some kind of magical beast, is Percival Graves. Mr. Graves confronts Newt in Tina's office. Oh, and a guy named Abernathy is also there. Remember him, he becomes important later. Anyway, Graves asks to see Newt's suitcase, only to find that there's been a classic switcheroo, and Newt has Jacob's suitcase full of tasty baked goods, while Jacob has Newt's suitcase full of wild magical animals. Back at his studio apartment, Jacob the baker discovers the switcheroo as well, and accidentally lets loose a number of the eponymous fantastic beasts. Newt and Tina track Jacob down, repair the damage done to his apartment and body, and set off to find the rest of the escaped cryptids. Meanwhile, the Church of the Bad Haircuts catches the attention of Langdon Shaw, son of the newspaper magnate Henry Shaw Sr. and brother to U.S. Senator Henry Shaw Jr. Langdon brings Mary Lou along with her creepy son Credence to meet his father and brother, but neither seem too interested in their tales of hocus pocus. Tina brings Newt and Jacob back to her apartment, where they meet her sister Queenie, who is a legilimens.
You can read minds.
Yes, actually that's exactly what it means. While the gang chows down on some strudel, Credence Barebone has a literal back alley meeting with Percival Graves, during which we learn that Graves has recruited Credence to find a very powerful child that Graves has supposedly seen in a vision. Graves tells Credence that if he can find this child, who apparently is very close to his mother Mary Lou, he will let Credence join the Wizarding World. Back at Casa Goldstein, Queenie and Jacob start to fall for each other, which we learn is very against the Wizarding rules, and Newt invites Jacob to see the inside of his suitcase. Again, not a euphemism. Turns out Newt's suitcase holds an entire menagerie of wondrous creatures, each inhabiting their own little worlds. We learn that Newt has come to America to bring a trafficked thunderbird named Frank back home to Arizona. We also see a strange force that Newt calls an obscurus, a cloud of magic-eating darkness that I'm sure will have nothing to do with the plot and probably won't come up again, right? Just your garden-variety floating ball of hate and shame. Newt and Jacob go on the hunt for Newt's escaped erumpet. They track it to Central Park, where Newt recaptures the beast by making it horny. Whatever Wingardium's your Leviosa, pal. Around this time, Senator Shaw is hosting a fundraiser for his re-election campaign when he's attacked and killed by an obscurus. What a twist! Who could have seen that coming? This upsets MACUSA as it threatens to expose the Wizarding World to the no-mages. No-magi? No-mage? President Pickery blames the whole thing on Newt, accuses Tina and Jacob of guilt by association, and has Graves arrest the lot of them. While in Wizard Prison, Newt and Tina explain to Jacob that an obscurus is formed when a witch or wizard is forced to suppress their magical powers, and that these children, called obscurials, rarely live past 10 years old, which sounds a lot like the kid that Graves was having Credence hunt down. Graves interrogates Newt, revealing that he was almost expelled from Hogwarts, but that a certain professor by the name of Albus Dumbledore personally vouched for him. Ooh, I know that guy! Regardless, Graves sentences both Newt and Tina to death by a weird memory pool chair, but they both escape with the help of Newt's pocket monsters. Oh, that'd make a good franchise. And Queenie, who heard Tina's mental cry for help. They hide out in a wizarding speakeasy and bribe its goblin gangster owner Narlac for information, but Narlac already tipped off the fuzz, and the whole place gets raided by MACUSA. Luckily, the Fab Four escape and track Newt's demiguise down to Macy's department store, where they find it taking care of his alchemy, and you know what, you don't really have to know much about the Fantastic Beasts to actually follow the Fantastic Beasts franchise. But in between all the monster catching, some details come out about Newt's past. Apparently while at Hogwarts, he had a relationship with Leta Lestrange that went awry in some way that we'll probably learn about in the next movie, hint hint wink wink. Eagle-eared listeners will also recognize the surname Lestrange as the same one belonging to Bellatrix Lestrange, the killer of Harry Potter's godfather Sirius Black and the Order of the Phoenix. How exactly Leta is related to Bellatrix remains to be seen. Suffice to say that all these families were mixing it up on the regular, so it might get a little complicated. Meanwhile, back at the Church of Perpetual No Fun Having, Mary Lou is about to practice some corporal punishment on her adopted daughter Modesty when the Obscurus lashes out and kills her. Graves goes to find Credence and Modesty still recovering from the Obscurus attack, only to find that Credence is the Obscurial, not Modesty. What? Graves tries to get Credence to harness his power, but that goes about as well as you'd expect, and the Obscurus starts destroying the whole city. Newt and Tina attempt to subdue the Obscurus by talking sense into Credence. Graves tries to harness Credence's power for his own ulterior motives, and Makusa simply tries to neutralize the threat by destroying the Obscurus and killing Credence in the process. In the end, it would seem that Makusa comes out on top as the Obscurus appears to dissipate from the Auror's spells. This angers Graves, who goes on a rant about the oppression of the Wizarding World's Statute of Secrecy, which prompts President Pickery to order his arrest. When her Aurors prove no match for Graves' magic, Newt releases his swooping evil to distract him and restrains him with some kind of sticky spell. Newt then uses a Revelio charm to dispel Graves' disguise and reveal that he was actually, wait for it, it's been Grindelwald all along, bum 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 bum. The Dark Wizard is taken into custody. Frank the Thunderbird causes a rainstorm infused with a vial of swooping evil venom to obliviate the whole city, and everyone lives happily ever after. Just kidding. This is a franchise after all. We gotta squeeze 4 more movies out of this baby. Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald begins 5 months after the events of the first film, which you can tell by Johnny Depp's hair. During his extradition to London, Grindelwald escapes with the help of Makusa's most micromanaging supervisor, Abernathy. See, I told you he'd be important. 3 months later, our boy Newt is appealing his travel ban to the Ministry of Magic so he can continue his magizoology career, but they're not too keen to appease him because of the whole almost destroying New York thing. They're willing to grant Newt's appeal, though, if he'll help them find Credence, who, turns out, wasn't killed in New York and is somewhere in Europe. Newt refuses, so the job goes to Gunnar Grimson, who is hiding behind a pole for some reason. We also meet Newt's old friend from Hogwarts, Leta Lestrange. Remember? From the picture? Who is engaged to Newt's brother Theseus, which he's totally cool with, because their relationship is completely platonic. Right? In Paris, Grindelwald gets a fresh haircut, and he and his followers set up shop in a posh Parisian apartment. He instructs one of his lackeys to find Credence at a circus. Oh, and in case you didn't think they were evil enough yet, they kill a baby just for good measure. Back in London, Newt meets with Dumbledore, and we finally learn an important piece of the wise old headmaster's backstory. He was hot. Dumbledore also asks Newt to find Credence, and reveals to him that the boy might actually be the lost son of a pure-blood line of French wizards, and the brother of his friend Leta Lestrange. Newt's reluctant, but Dumbledore slips him the address of a safe house in Paris, assuming he'll take on the job, because, you know, he's Dumbledore. He also reveals a rather cryptic bit of information.
I cannot move against Grindelwald.
Again, I'm sure this is just a throwaway line that probably won't come up again. Anyway, Newt returns home to find that Queenie and a decidedly non-obliviated Jacob have, broken into his apartment? What are friends for, I guess? Newt figures out that Queenie has Jacob under a love enchantment, which he dispels, causing Jacob and Queenie to have an argument about their future. You see, Queenie wants to get married, but Jacob says if they do, she could get sent to prison for violating wizarding law. Unable to mend their fences, Queenie leaves to find her sister Tina. Newt finds a postcard from Tina that says she's in Paris, and the two jilted lovers make their way to the City of Lights to reunite with their respective chéri amours. In Paris, Tina visits the Circus Arcanus, which is, as you might have guessed, an arcane circus. There we see Credence alive and well, and befriending a woman named Nagini. For all you muggles out there, Nagini was the name of Voldemort's giant snake and his final Horcrux from the Harry Potter series. At this point though, Nagini's still able to retain her human form, and her transformation into a snake is being exploited by the circus's ringmaster, Skender. As Tina's watching the freak show, Nagini attacks Skender, and Credence releases some fire drakes who wreak havoc on the circus, allowing the two to escape. Once the dust settles, Tina meets with another interested party named Yusuf Kama, who purports to have definitive proof of Credence's identity. Credence and Nagini track down the nurse who put baby Credence up for adoption, but she's swiftly done away with by Grimson. Credence unleashes the Obscurus to try to kill Grimson, but is able to defend against it with a really good bubble spell. In another dark back alley scene, it's revealed that Grimson is actually working for Grindelwald to eventually lead Credence to the Dark Wizard's cause. Feels like they could have had this meeting at his new headquarters, but this guy just really likes back alleys. Newt and Jacob find Yusuf, who's taken Tina prisoner so that he can kill Credence himself, and he throws them both in the cell with her, but he falls victim to a water dragon parasite living in his eyeball. I mean, who hasn't been there? The three escape with a little help from Pickett, Newt's trusty Bowtruckle, and take Yusuf to the safe house that Dumbledore told Newt about. Meanwhile, Newt's brother Theseus and his team of magic cops show up at Hogwarts to confront Dumbledore about his secret dealings with Newt. Lita uses the opportunity to take a trip down memory lane where we get a look at her and Newt's childhood friendship and a mysterious tragedy from her past that continues to haunt her. She also speaks with Dumbledore about their shared experience of losing a sibling, in her case a brother named Corvus. Queenie, who's been taken in by a follower of Grindelwald, meets the Dark Wizard in his new headquarters, where he uses her forbidden love for Jacob to convert her to his cause. Grindelwald finally makes contact with Credence and Nagini, promising the young Obscurial the truth of his identity if he meets him at Père Lachaise, the cemetery where Jim Morrison is buried. Or will be buried? Was Jim Morrison a wizard? Back at the safe house, Newt extracts the parasite from Yusuf, just in time for Grindelwald to rally his troops via black silk banners, which we all know is the universal sign for meet me at the cemetery tonight. Newt and Tina make for the French Ministry of Magic, which apparently doesn't get a cool name like Makusa, to find the records of the Lestrange family and settle the truth of Credence's identity once and for all. Left alone with the recovering Yusuf, Jacob meets the owner of the safe house, Nicholas Flamel, the guy who made the titular Sorcerer's Stone from the first ever installment in the Harry Potter series. The ancient alchemist shows Jacob his crystal ball, in which he spots Queenie at the very same cemetery where Grindelwald told Credence to meet him. Newt and Tina infiltrate the French Ministry of Magic, searching for records on Corvus Lestrange, at the same time that Lita is seeking those very records. Both parties are disappointed to find the records have been moved to the Lestrange family tomb located at, you guessed it, the same cemetery where Grindelwald is calling his rally. The trio get a ride to the cemetery from Newt's friendly Zawu, just in time to catch Yusuf about to take out Credence/Corvus and Nagini in the process. Yusuf greets Lita as his sister and reveals their complicated family history. See, Yusuf was the son of a pureblood Senegalese wizard named Mustafa Kama and a witch named Lorena, but a French wizard named Corvus Lestrange desired Lorena for himself, so he charmed and abducted her. Lorena died giving birth to Yusuf's half-sister Lita. Corvus was apparently not one to dwell though, and he soon remarried and gave birth to another child, also named Corvus. But Corvus Sr. knew that Yusuf was charged by his father to get revenge for the death of his mother, so he set Corvus Jr. on a ship to America. The ship sank at sea, but somehow, according to Yusuf, Corvus survived. Lita denies Yusuf's claim, revealing that she was actually on the ship with her brother, but he just won't shut the heck up, so she switched him with another baby who was on the ship. I'm serious, the whole franchise happens because a baby wouldn't stop crying. That's one of the 3 things a baby can do besides eat and poop. What did you expect? While Lita and the mystery baby escaped on a lifeboat, Corvus's lifeboat capsized, sending the little tyke to Davy Jones' locker. With Credence still no closer to discovering who he actually is, the whole gang heads down into the bowels of the cemetery, where Grindelwald's followers have gathered to hear him speak. Jacob finds Queenie, who seems to have fully drunk the Kool-Aid, or potion of Kool-Aidius or whatever, while Newt and Tina realize they've been lured into a trap and try to find a way out. Grindelwald gives his grand speech, blah blah blah, wizards rule, muggles drool, yada yada yada, then he takes a big rip out of a skull bong and blows a fat prophecy cloud that basically predicts World War II and the detonation of nuclear weapons. Grindelwald tells his followers that if wizards don't rule over muggles, that they will eventually turn their weapons on their kind. Theseus and the other Aurors surround the rally, so Grindelwald tells his followers to bounce so he can take care of them himself. He sets up a literal trial by fire to test his followers' loyalty, and burns to death any unloyal soul who tries to enter. Among those who go with him are Credence, much to Nagini's dismay, and Queenie, much to Jacob's dismay. Lita, still seeing herself as a monster for accidentally killing her half-brother, sacrifices her life so that the others can escape, but not before pledging her love to the general direction of the Scamander brothers. The surviving witches and wizards are joined by Nicholas Flamel, who leads them all in a joint spell to quell Grindelwald's blue fire dragon thing before it can destroy the rest of Paris. The whole gang returns to Hogwarts, where Newt tells Dumbledore what went down. He also presents him with a vial of blood, revealing that the reason Dumbledore couldn't fight Grindelwald was that the two had made a blood pact years ago. At his new headquarters in Nuremberg, Austria, Grindelwald presents Credence with a wand and tells him his real identity, Aurelius Dumbledore, the younger brother of the future headmaster of Hogwarts himself. Whether that's actually true remains to be seen, but what is clear is that Grindelwald intends to stoke Credence's hate of Dumbledore, presumably to get around the whole blood pact thing and take out Dumbledore once and for all. Now we know that's not how it all shakes out because, spoiler alert, Dumbledore's alive at the start of Harry Potter. But we do know from the trailers for Part 3 of the franchise that Grindelwald, now played by Mads Mikkelsen, will be amassing followers from all over the world and preparing for his all-out war against the non-wizarding world. There's still 2 more films to come after this one though, so it's likely we won't see the famed battle between ex-lovers Dumbledore and Grindelwald until the last one. But with new exotic locales is sure to come new fantastic beasts, and one thing we can be sure of is to learn where to find them.